Hello, hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to this last minute revision session for the Maharashtra MBA CET 2024. Hope you guys are geared up for the CET. It's not too long now for the CET. Right. So this is, I believe, the fourth and the final session in this series of last minute revision session that we have for the CET. Right. I'm sure the earlier sessions have also been very useful to all of you, right? And hopefully this one will also be. So let's get right into it, right? We're going to focus on the quant section. I'm assuming all of you would be familiar with the format of the CET, the number of questions that typically you can expect from quant, from different areas within that, right? So I'm not really going to spend any time on that. Let's directly get into the solving process, right? As I'm sure all of you are aware that the CET is essentially, the biggest challenge in the CET is to manage your time, isn't it? Right? It's a speed-based test. You need to be really very quick in solving uh, the questions, right? So while on an average you would have less than a minute to solve any particular question, given that there are 200 questions to solve and you have 150 minutes to do that. But realistically speaking, obviously you will not be actually solving all the 200 questions, right? And more so, if you take an average also, the quant questions will typically take slightly longer than the other sections, right? So I believe that for a typical quant question, if you take about a minute and a half, right? I think that should be fair, right? And as long as, of course, you get those answers correct, right? So yes, it is a speed-based test, no doubt about that. You need to be quick, but at the same time, you also need to be accurate. You also need to be correct, right? So with that kind of a background, right, let's dive down to today's questions, right? So we're going to take up a series of questions. I have about 25 to 30 questions that I will make you guys go through, right? And as soon as I show a question on the screen, I'll give you roughly about 30 seconds or so to, to try your hand at solving those, correct? After which we will, I'll show you the solutions, right? And of course, if you have any questions, you can always put that in the chat, right? Just give me a minute while I set up the whole thing, right? Just 1 second. Right. So you can put up whatever questions you might have in the chat, and I'll try my best to answer those questions. Correct. In the meantime, I would like you to start, by solving this particular question. Right. So as I said, I'll show you, a particular question for about 30 seconds or so, and then we'll see how to solve. Correct. So go ahead. All right. I'm assuming by now you should have got an answer here, right? It's a comparatively simpler question. What you told here is that when a number is divided by 84, the remainder is 52, right? So if I consider my number to be, let's say, x, I'm told that x divided by 84 gives me a remainder, right, of 52, correct? So what will be the remainder of that same number is divided by 21, right? So if x divided by 84 gives a remainder of 52, it simply means that x is a multiple of 84 plus 52, right? That's what makes this 52 as a remainder, right? Now, when I'm trying to divide this number x, right, by 21, right? Since 84 happens to be a multiple of 21, any multiple of 84 will itself also be a multiple of 21. And hence, this particular term, 84a, will give me a remainder of 0 when I'm dividing by 21, right? So the only term that will give me a remainder is this 52. And 52, when divided by 21, gives me a remainder of 10, isn't it? Right? Because 52 is 10 more than 42, which is a multiple of 21. Correct? So my final remainder, when this entire number, that is x, is divided by 21, comes out to be 10. Right? So that is your answer. Right? So this should not have taken you more than maybe 15 seconds or so. Right? Even at a conservative. All right? Okay, right? So let's move on to the next question then. Again, go through this question. I'll give you about 30 seconds to solve. Right. What have we told here? Right. We are told that there are 4 drums, right, whose volumes are given. Right. One drum has a volume of 640 cubic meters. Another is 400. Third is 540. Fourth is 600 cubic meters. Right. The question is saying if they have to be filled using a single bucket, what can be the maximum volume of that single common bucket that can be used to fill all the 4 drums to full capacity? Right. Now, if I consider any one of them, let's say the drum having a volume 640, right? If I want to fill a drum of volume 640 using a particular bucket, right? What can be the capacity of that bucket, right? For example, can I have a bucket of capacity 1? Yes, right? I will have to fill that 640 times. Can I have a bucket of capacity 2? Yes, again, I will have to fill it 320 times and so on, right? So I can have any value here, right, as the capacity of the bucket that is a factor of 640, right? Do you get that, right? For example, here, I cannot have a bucket of capacity 3, right? Because 640 is not a multiple of 3, right? I can have 1, I can have 2, but I cannot have 3, right? Because I'll not be able to fill this 640 completely using a bucket of capacity 3, right? Because 3 is not a factor, right? But I can do it with 4, I can do it with 5, and so on. I cannot do it with 6. Okay, right? So basically the capacity of that bucket can be any number that is a factor of 640, right? But at the same time, I want to use that same bucket to fill the other capacities also, which means that same value has to be a factor of 400 also, 540 also, and 600 also, right? So it has to be a common factor. And since I'm asked to find the maximum volume of that bucket, right, that will have to be the highest common factor. Or in other words, the answer here is simply the HCF of 640, 400, 540, and 600. Correct? Now you can actually try and calculate the HCF. Not too difficult. Okay? Or what you can do is you can use the options. Right? Now clearly 60 is out because 60 is not a factor of 640. It's very clear. Right? 60 is not even a factor of 400. It's not a factor. It is a factor of the remaining two, but not for 640 or 400. Right? So that's out. Correct? Now between the others, you focus on the highest one because you want the highest value, isn't it? Right? So will 40 divide 640? Yes. Correct? Because 4 divides 64. Right? Will 40 divide 400? Yes. But will 40 divide 540? No, it won't. Which means even 40 is out. Correct? Now, if you look at 20, right? Everything is divisible by 20, right? 640 divided by 20, 400 divided by 20, 540 divided by 20, and 600 also divided by 20, which means 20 will be a common factor of all of them, and it will be the highest common factor, right? So the answer to this question would be 20. All right. I hope you understood why we're using HCF and how to calculate. So rather than actually trying to calculate the HCF by factorizing or by using the division method or anything, make use of the options. It will be much quicker. Okay. All right. Try this one now. All right, I've just noticed the chat box here. Some of you are asking me to shift the face cam, right? I'm not sure how will I be able to do that. Just let me check. Hold on. In any case, I don't think it is really hampering the view, is it? Right? Can anyone tell me whether the face cam is really blocking the question itself? Okay, anyway, so let's go back to the question then. Okay. So the question is, how many two-digit numbers are either divisible by 8 or by 9, right? Now, so what are we looking for? We are looking for basically multiples of 8 and we are looking at multiples of 9. Correct. Now, and we are looking at essentially a two-digit numbers clearly, right? Now, the smallest two-digit multiple of 8 is obviously 16, isn't it? Right, which is 8 into 2, right? And the largest two-digit multiple of 8 is 96, right? Which is 8 into 12, correct? So the total number of multiples of 8 that are two-digit going from 16 to 96, right? That is the second multiple of 8 to the 12th multiple of 8 are basically 11 multiples. Do you get that? Right? So there are 11 multiples of 8 that are two-digit numbers. Correct? Similarly, if you look at multiples of 9, the smallest two-digit multiple of 9 is 18, which is 9 into 2. And the largest two-digit multiple of 9 is 99, right? Which is 9 into 11. Correct? So the number of multiples of 9 that are two-digit are 10. Right? So can I then say that if I want to look for numbers that are divisible by 8 or by 9, I'm looking at basically 11 plus 10 numbers. However, right, what we need to be careful about is that there is one number out of all of them that is 72, which is basically the LCM of 8 and 9, right? Which is divisible by both 8 and by 9. So effectively, if I do 11 plus 10, then I'm double counting 72, right? But I cannot double count 72. So I'll subtract this. So effectively, it becomes 11 plus 10, 21 minus 1, 20, right? So there are 20 multiples of 22 digit numbers that are either divisible by 8 or by, okay? Cool. What about this? Here, okay, just take your time. I'll give you about 15 seconds or so to answer this question. Okay, in the meantime, let me again check your chat box. Okay. In the case of longer questions, some part of the question gets blocked. Okay, cool. So this is not a longer question. So whenever I come across a longer question, I'll try and see if I can uh, either read out that question or do something about it, right? Otherwise, things are fine, right? Right. So this is a comparatively simpler question, right? Now, I'm sure you've heard the or you know the concept of cyclicity, right? Where any number raised to any power gives you values that end in certain digits, right? But you don't really have to use that over here. Okay. What you simply have to remember is that any number that ends with a 5, okay, whatever be the power that you are raising it to, irrespective of whatever the power is, the value will always itself end again with a 5, right? So 435 raised to 11, whatever be its value, will end with a 5. And if you multiply 5 with an even number, right? So here 4874 is an even number. So 4874 raised to 122 will also be an even number. And when you multiply a number ending with a 5 with an even number, the final result has to end with a 0, right? So you can just directly click a 0 here. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to think anything else. You don't have to calculate. You don't have to apply the concept of cyclicity over here. Nothing to be done. Okay. I hope that is clear. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Tell me what happens here. Okay. This question is, I think, a long question. All right. And maybe a part of the question is hidden by the face cam. So I will read out the question to you, right? So that you can solve it. So it goes something like this. Last year, the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls in a school was 1:4. So you're given boys to girls ratio as 1:4. This was last year. Okay. This year, right, you're told that 148 new boys joined the school and 250 new girls also joined the school, right? And right, currently, the ratio of boys to girls is given as 2:5. Okay. The question is, how many total students are studying in the school now? Okay. Right. So I hope now you've got the question and it's no longer hampered by the face cam. So try and solve. Okay. So some of you have given an answer to this question already, right? Which is good. Now, once more, right? This is a question where you can solve it in the standard manner that you solve, correct? Using ratios, right? Or you can solve it in a slightly smarter way, slightly quicker way. Okay. We were told that last year the ratio of the boys to girls was 1:4. That much we know. So can I then say that last year the total number of students must be a multiple of 5? Correct? This year, 148 boys and 250 girls joined, which means 398 new students joined the school. Correct? And this year, the ratio of boys to girls is 2:5, right? So first of all, remember that since the question is asking how many students are studying in the school now, so we are mainly concerned with the ratio 2:5, right? So can I say that this year, the total number of students have to be a multiple of 7, right? Which would rule out 598 because 598 is not a multiple of 7, first of all. Okay, right? So now we are left with only 3 options. But not just that, from whatever is the total number of students this year, if I remove these 398 new students, then I will get the number of students of last year, and that should be a multiple of 5. Do you get that? Right? Now, if I take the first option 805, right? 805 minus 398, right, gives you 407, right? Which clearly is not divisible by 5, right? So 805 cannot be an answer. But if I look at the third option, 798 minus 398 is 400, correct? Which is divisible by 5, right? And hence that has to be a answer, right? Because 798 itself is divisible by 7. And if I remove the 398 new students, then the old students, which are 400, is a multiple of 5. So it satisfies all conditions, right? And then 798 will be your answer, right? So again, rather than trying to solve it in the standard format and, use ratios and form equations and all that, this is a quicker way to solve, right? I hope this is clear. Okay, this is the next question. Go on. Okay, again, some of you may not be able to see the question because it probably is hidden by the face cam. So I'll read out the question. Fresh grapes contain 80% water by weight, while dry grapes contain 20% water by weight. Right? The question is asking what is the weight of dry grapes that are available from 300 kgs of fresh grapes. Okay. So now I hope you can you know the question. Right. Okay, a few people have answered. Most of you have got it correct, but some have also not got it correct. So let's see. So what do we have here, right? We know that fresh grapes, correct, have 80% water, right? So can I say that if 80% is water, right, then the remaining 20%, right, has to be the actual pulp of the grapes, correct? For dry grapes is the other way around, right? That 20% is water, correct? And 80% is the pulp, correct? Okay. So now what? Look, when you have 300 kgs of fresh grape, correct? So if you have 300 kgs of fresh grape, obviously 80% of that 300 will be water, which is 240 kgs, whereas the only 20%, that is 60 kgs, will be pulp. Now, when you dry these grapes, right, the water will dry out, most of it, but the pulp will remain the same. You understand that? The water will dry out, but the pulp will remain the same, which means now for the dry grapes, this 80% is the 60 kgs, right? The 60 kgs of pulp that you had in the fresh grapes will now form 80% of the dry grapes. Do you understand that, right? So how much will be water? Water will then be 20%, right? So do you see that water is basically 1/4 in dry grapes? Water is 1/4 of the pulp. So if the pulp is 60 kgs, water will be 1/4 of that, which is 15 kgs, right? And hence the total weight of the dry grapes will be 15 plus 60, that is 75 kgs, right? So 300 kgs of fresh grapes give you 75 kgs of dry grapes. All right. I hope that is clear, guys. Dry grapes, 15 plus 60, that is 75. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay, maybe again the question is not visible, or at least part of it. So what do we have here? A bullock cart has to cover a distance of 80 kilometers in 10 hours, right? If the bullock cart covers half the journey in 60% of the time, right? I repeat, if the bullock cart covers half the journey in 60% of the time, then what should be its speed to cover the remaining distance in the required time? Okay, while most of you are solving this question, Nandini has asked a question. Please explain where the 15 kgs came from. Nandini, so if you remember the previous question, right, we had said that the 60 kgs of pulp that you got from the fresh grapes, right, now form 80% of the dry grapes, right? So if 80% is 60 kgs, the remaining 20%, that is water, will be 1/4 of 60, that is 15 kgs, right? And hence you have 15 kgs of water and 60 kgs of pulp, which makes it 75 kgs of the entire dry grapes. Nandini, I hope you got that. Okay, now coming back to this question, right? It's a very simple question. It just says that you have to cover a total distance of 80 kilometers. So let's say this is 80 kilometers, correct? And you have 10 hours to do that, correct? What you're told is that you are covering half of it, which is 40 kilometers, right? In 60% of the time, right? 60% of 10 hours is obviously 6 hours, right? So in 6 hours, you're covering 40 kilometers. The question is to cover the remaining 40 kilometers. Okay. How much should your speed be so that you overall take only 10 hours, right? So for the remaining 40 kilometers, you now have only 4 hours. right? So if you have to cover 40 kilometers in 4 hours, obviously your speed has to be 10 kilometers per hour. Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Here you go. Okay, I will again read out this question, right? The average weight of A, B, and C, right? If the average weight of A and B is 50, of A, B, and C is 60, the average of A and B, okay, is 50, and the average of B and C is 55. The question is asking you, what's the weight of B? All right. Yeah, this is a pretty simple question, isn't it? Right? Since you're told that the average of A, B, and C is 60, can I say that the total weight of all the three will be 180? Right? Because 180 divided by 3 gives you 60. Right? Now, I am also told that the average of A and B is 50, which means the total weight of A and B will be 100. Correct? Now, if I put this value of A and B over here, right, then I will get the value of C as 80, right? So C weighs 80 kgs, but that's not what you're asked, right? What we are asked is B. Now, I'm also told that the average of B and C is 55, which means the total of B and C should be 55 into 2, which is 110, right? Now, out of that, C I know is 80, and hence B, right, will be simply 110 minus 80, which is 30 kgs. Okay. So again, a question that should not take too long for you guys to solve, right? Okay, try this question now. So I'll just read out this question again, right? A sum of rupees 2000 was distributed among 4 people such that C gets 20% more than B, all right? D gets 10% more than C, all right? And A gets 592 rupees. The question is, how much does C get, right? So basically, 4 people, A, B, C, D, right? 2000 rupees is divided between the 4, right? You're told that A gets 592, right? C gets 20% more than B, right? So if B gets, let's say B, Okay, C gets 20% more, which means basically you'll get 1.2B, correct? And D gets 10% more than C, right? So 10% more than 1.2B, right, will give you 1.32B, right? So that is 2000, correct? So when you add up all this, you should get 2000, correct? So basically B plus 1.2B plus 1.32B, right, essentially gives you 3.52B will be 2000 minus 592, right? 2000 minus 592 gives you how much? 1408, I believe. Am I right? Correct. So your B is 1408 divided by 3.5. Are you okay? All right. So this comes out to be exactly 400. But of course, the question is not asking you how much did B get. The question is asking you how much did C get, right? So C has basically got 20% more than B, isn't it? Right? 20% of 400 is 80, right? And hence C gets 400 plus 80, that is 480. Okay. 480, the closest option is 481, which should be exactly 480 actually. But in the test, I would probably mark out or choose 481 as the option. Okay. Can we move on? Yeah, man, exactly. So it should be exactly 480. Well, yes, Atif, you should go for the option that is the closest. Right. Now I'll read out this question again. Okay, because I'm sure this is also hidden. From a cask containing 48 liters of pure mango solution, right? So you have 48 liters of mango, right? From this, 6 liters are drawn out, 6 liters are drawn out, and you're filling in 6 liters of water, right? So you're removing 6 liters and you're putting in 6 liters of water, right? And then the process is repeated once more, right? Which means again, of course, you come back to 48 liters, but now this 40 liters does not contain only mango, right? This contains mango plus water. From this, again, you're removing 6 liters and you're adding 6 liters, correct? The question is, what will be the proportion of mango solution to water in the resulting mixture, right? Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with what is called the wine left formula, right? So I'm not, I'll give you the formula, but I'm not going to explain the logic behind it, all right? So if A liters of wine, right, or mango or whatever it is, right, is, you have A liters and from that you are removing B liters and filling it with B liters of water or anything else, correct? And you keep doing this n number of times, then the proportion of wine, or in this case, mango, left after n iterations gives you is given by a minus b upon a the whole raised to 10, right? I'm sure you know that. So if I in our example, right, the value a is 48 and the value b is 6, correct? So you get 48 minus 6, that is 42, right, upon 48 the whole square, right? Because we're doing this twice, correct? Now 42 by 48, right, can be simplified, right? So 7 into 6 and 8 into 6. Am I right? 7 into 6 and 8 into 6, correct? So basically this is 49 by 64, correct? So out of the total quantity of 64, 49 is mango, right? So how much is water? The water is the balance, 15. Correct. So what you have So this is mango, this is the total. Correct? So you have 49 mango and 15 water, and hence the proportion of mango to water is 49 is to 15. Okay? All right, Hitansh, I think you have this question from the previous uh, question, isn't it, right? How did I come to 1.2b? So basically, if you were told in the question that C has got 20% more than B. So if C gets 20% more than B, right, it is basically 1.2 times, right? And when anything is increased by 20%, you multiply it by 1.2. Okay. Are we all okay with this question? Surprisingly, I did not get any answers in the chat from this for this question. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next one. All right. So once again, I'll read out the question for those of you who might not be able to read it. Rishi has 9,600 with him. Okay. He lent one part of it at 6% per annum and the remaining part at 9% per annum. Right? Is that 9% per annum visible? Probably yes. His total income from interest earned after 2 years was 1536. Find the sum of money that he lent at 9%. Okay, that's the question. So 9,600, some of it he lent at 6% interest and some of it he lent at 9% interest, right? So whatever the interest that he got in both the cases, the total interest that he got was 1,536 after 2 years. Okay, so the question is how much did he lend at 9%? Siddhi, to answer your question, no, it will not. Right? The formula will not remain the same. The initial concentration is not 100% there. The initial liquid that you have should be a pure liquid, right? Only then will this formula work. Anyone with an answer to this question? Yeah, so quite a few of you seem to have got this, right? So basically, since we are talking about simple interest, right? 1,536 interest in 2 years, right? Basically translates to 768 in 1 year, right? So you're getting an interest of 768 in 1 year. Now, 768, right? On a principal of 9,600, correct? Gives you, is basically 8%. So 768 is 8% of 9,600, right? So overall, by investing some money in 6% interest and some other money in 9% interest, you're getting a final interest of 8%, correct? So now what you can do is you can use the allocation formula, right? So 6% in one scheme 9% in another scheme, and overall 8%, right? Which means the difference here being 2, the difference here being 1, right? So the money is invested in the ratio 1:2. Okay. So out of 9,600, right? So this 9,600 is divided into three parts. One part is invested in 6% and two parts are invested in 9%, right? Since you're asked about 9%, so that will be 2/3 of 9,600, right? And 2/3 of 9,600 is 6,400, right? So your answer here should be 6,400. Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of you have got this. All right, let's move on. Sanjeev rose 45 kilometers with the stream and 30 kilometers against the stream, taking 6 hours each time. Right? Find his rate per hour in still water and the rate at which the stream flows. That is the question. So, okay, someone is asking me any other method apart from alligation, right? For the previous question. So, alligation was the simplest way to solve that question, right? But if you're not familiar with it, I would, suggest that either read up the concept. It's a very simple concept, but very useful. Alternatively, you could have solved the question by actually figuring out, correct, or forming an equation. So, if let's say, for example, you invest some X rupees in 6% and the remaining 9,600 minus X in 9%, correct? And overall, you should get 768 in 1 year. So 6% of X plus 9% of 9,600 minus X should add up to 768. And using that, you find the value of X, right? It's a difficult, and longer way to solve, correct? Rather than that, this is easier. Atif, for which question are you asking about trial and error? For this one or for the previous one? As in the interest question or the books and streams question? Which question? The previous question. Okay. Yeah, you can. You can use trial and error. Right? I don't have a problem there. Right. It's just that it was fortunate that 6,400 was the first option, right? But if it was not, then it would be a little complicated to do, right? But Adit, I'm sure you should be familiar with the concept of allegation, right? I've talked with this myself, so I'm sure you know this. Okay. Right. So let's move on. Okay. So what are we told, right? So when you say with the stream is downstream. So when this guy goes downstream, right, he covers 45 kilometers in 6 hours. So his speed of downstream is 45 upon 6, correct? And 45 upon 6 works out to be 7.5 kilometers per hour. On the other hand, when he's going against the stream, it means that he's going upstream, correct? And when he's going upstream, right, he covers 30 kilometers in those 6 hours. So his speed will be 30 upon 6, that is 5 kilometers per hour. Correct, right? So you're asked to find his still water speed. So still water speed, which is, let's say, S1, is basically, remember, the downstream plus the upstream speed divided by 2. Okay, which in this case will be 7.5 plus 5 upon 2. So 12.5 upon 2, that is 6.25 kilometers per hour. Right? Once you get the 6.25 kilometers per hour, you need not even find the upstream speed. There is only one option which says 6.25. But in any case, even if you had to, then the stream, the speed of the stream, right, is downstream minus upstream upon 2, which is 7.5 minus 5 upon 2. That is 2.5 upon 2. 2.5 upon 2 is 1.25. Right? So that is option number 3. Okay. But again, to save time, right, you need not have found the down, the rate at which the stream flows, because once you find 6.25 kilometers per hour, there is only one option left, right? So mark that option and move on. Okay. All right. I'll again read out this question also. A sells goods at prices that are 10% higher than whatever is marked on them. Correct? So whatever is the marked price, right? A sells it at 10% higher. So this is the selling price of A. Okay. Whereas B sells it at 15% less than the marked price for whatever reason, right? So he gives a discount. Okay. So whatever is the marked price, B sells it at 15% less. So this is the selling price of, okay, right? For articles that are sold by A at 550 rupees, B marks it at 600 rupees. The question is, at what price will B sell the article that is marked by A for 1000 rupees? Okay, try and solve. Any answers? Okay. Yep. Yeah. All right. So what are we told? We are told that whatever is the mark price, correct? A sells it at 10% higher. So if A's selling price of A is 550, right? Can I say that mark price was 500? Right? The mark price was 500, correct? And A sold it at 10% more. That means he sold it for 50 rupees more. That is how you get 550, correct? So for items that are marked at 500 by A, what B does, he marks it at 600. So B marks it at 600. Right? For articles that are sold by A at 550, B marks it at 600, and hence he sells it for 15% less than that. That's the entire equation. Right? Now the question is asking, at what price will B sell an article that is marked by A for 1000 rupees? Okay, now think about it. If items that are marked by A at 500, B marks it at 600. So items that are marked by A at 1000, clearly B will mark it for 1200 rupees. Right? So for 500 mark price of A, B's mark price is 600. So if mark price of A is given as 1000, what would be B's mark price? 1200. Correct? And then what does he finally sell it for is the question, right? So he sells it for 15% less, right? Now, how much is 15% of 120? 10% of 1200, sorry, 15% of 1200, my bad. 15, what is 15% of 1200? Now, 10% of 1200 is 120. So 5% will be half of that, it is 60. So 15% will be 120 plus 60, 180. So from 1200, you have to remove 180, right? And when you remove 180, you will come to 1020, right? So B sells those items at 1020. That is the third option. Okay. Yeah, a lot of you seem to have got it. Good. I'm glad. All right, this is the next question, and I will again read it out to you. Yuvraj and Sachin started a handicraft business jointly, right? Yuvraj invested 4,000 rupees for 6 months, whereas Sachin invested 2,500 rupees for 10 months, right? At the end of whatever period we're talking about, they made a total profit of 6,272 rupees. Okay. The question is, what is Sachin's share? Okay, solve. Yeah. Right, very simple, isn't it? Right. So, in terms of partnership, basically called partnership, right? In partnership, where the investment as well as the time period is different, right? You need to basically multiply the two to arrive at the respective ratio, correct? So, for Yuvraj, it will be 4,000 into 6. For Sachin, it will be 2,500 into 10, correct? So, this will give you the ratio, right? And of course, you can then simplify whatever you can, right? So, this is basically 4 times, right? So you get basically 24 is to 25. Am I right? Yeah. Correct. So the ratio for Yuvraj in such is 24 is to 25, which means this 6,272 will be divided into a total of 49 parts, out of which Sachin gets 25 parts, right? So 25 upon 49 into 6,272, sorry, not 275, 6,272, right? This works out to be 3,200. Okay. Of course, you need not even really calculate this, very honestly. Okay. Once you arrive at this ratio, which is not very difficult to arrive, isn't it? You can see that it is almost equal, right? It is almost equal, isn't it? Right? Yuvraj gets 24 parts, Sachin gets 25 parts, not very different, correct? So if I just take half of 6,272, it'll be 3,100 and something, isn't it? 3,136 actually, but whatever, right? So clearly, Sachin's share has to be slightly more than 3,136, whereas Yuvraj's share will be slightly less, right? So the only feasible option here is 3,200, right? So you need not even calculate this, okay? Once you arrive at that ratio, okay? All right, let's move on. So I'll again read out this question for you. Rohit gives a loan of 1,000 rupees to Adarsh on a simple interest at 6% per annum for 3 years, right? So Rohit to Adarsh, right? He lends a principal of 1,000 at a rate of 6% per annum for a time period of 3 years. Okay. Now, with the amount that he received, he then gives a loan to Bhakti, right? So whatever is the interest that he gets, he lends it to Bhakti, okay, at 8% per annum for 3 years, okay, for 3 years, but the interest is compounded, right, half yearly. The interest is compounded half yearly. The question is, what is the total interest that Rohit has earned in this 6 years? Did you understand this? right? So the first suppose you have to figure out how much interest did he earn when he lent the money to others, correct? Now, if he's getting 6% every year, 6% of 1,000 is 60 rupees, right? And for 3 years, will then make it a total of 180 rupees, right? So the interest that he gets from the first loan is 180 rupees. Are we okay with this? Right? What then he does is he invests or he gives this 180 rupees as a loan to Bhakti, right? But now interest is compounded half yearly, right? At 8%, correct? So now what will happen if I want to find out the interest, right? I'll have to use the formula, right? So what is the formula then? Okay, so my amount, right? Remember A is P into 1 plus R upon 100 raised to T, isn't it? Correct? So now I will have 180 into 1 plus, because this is half yearly compounding, the rate of interest becomes 4, right? Raised to 6, right? Why 6? Because in 3 years, compounding half yearly gives you 6 times. Okay. Now, so now how will you solve this? What is the quickest way in which you can solve? Here, the options are also not very, very far apart, right? So you will actually need to do some amount of calculation here to figure out your answer. Okay, but not too much. If you see here, when you take 4% of 180, okay, right? 4% of 180 is what? 1.8 into 4, right? Which gives you about 7.2, right? And then multiply that by 6. So you get roughly about 45. Okay. No, 1 second. Let me see. 3 years in interest compounded half yearly. Okay. So what you can do is you can approximate, right? You can approximate. When you say 1 plus 0.04 raised to 6. Okay. If you remember binomial expansion, right, a little bit, then this will mainly be 1 raised to 6, which is 1 itself, plus 0.04 into 6, which is 0.24. Okay. Into 6. Correct. So this will become 1 plus how much is 0.24 into 6? Around 1.4. 1.44 times 6.4 and so on, right? So you get around approximately 2.4 into 180. Okay, right? So you can ignore the rest of the terms. Basically, the idea is that in binomial expansion, right, if one value is significantly lesser than the other, then you only need to focus on the initial 2 or 3 values, right? The rest of it can be easily ignored, right? So you will approximately get, 1.44. 1 plus 1.44 gives you 2.44, right? So your amount will be 2.44 into 180, right? Now 2.44 into 180, again you can approximate. You need not really calculate an exact value, correct? If you take, let's say, 2.5 into 180, correct, right? How much will that come out? It will come out to be 270. So this will be a little less than that, correct? Out of that, of course, 180 has already been removed, isn't it, right? So your interest will then be that around 440, right, that you will get minus 180, which should give you 260. Okay, so you're getting 260 rupees worth of interest from the second loan and 180 that you had got from the first loan. So your overall value, right, approximately, sorry, should come to 260 plus 180, which is again around 440. Okay. What option will you then choose here? Okay, let's see. What have we done? We have ignored the rest of the values, right? However, those values actually are still present, isn't it? Right? Which means the money that you actually make, okay, will be slightly more than what we have approximated here. Do you understand that? Right? It will be slightly more than what we have approximated here. Correct? Which means that our answer should be definitely more than 440. And there's only one option which is more than 440. Correct? So 493.07. Again, the point is, if you have to solve this question, correct, then this is this is the way in which you solve this question. It would take you a lot of time. There's no doubt about that. Correct? But you either mark an option or you just randomly select something and move on. Right? But if you have to mark, choose wisely. All right. So if you notice here, what I've done is I've not got an exact value. Right? If I have to calculate this, it will take obviously a lot of time. Right? I probably will be still able to do it, but it will take a lot of time. Right? So I try and approximate. Correct? So the moment I come to 440 and see that the actual value will have to be more than 440, so there is only one option which satisfies this. Okay, and that has to then be here. Okay, I hope that is clear. Once again, once again. Sorry, my bad. This should be 0.04, isn't it? Why did I do 0.24? Okay, sorry. Let's revert to what we were doing earlier. Okay. I hope all of you were clear up till this 180 rupees, right? The 180 rupees is what he got from the first transaction, right? Now that 180 he invested, or he rather lent it to Bhakti at 8% per annum, right? So you get 1 plus 0.04 raised to 6. Correct, right? So that can be approximated to 1 raised to 6 plus 0.04 into 6, which is 1.24, right? So my bad, 1.24 approximately. Okay, of course, it will be slightly greater than 1.24 because we have ignored a lot of terms, right? But we can approximate this. This comes up to be roughly about 223. Okay, now out of this 223, of course, 180. So this is your amount. This is your amount. Correct. So from 223, right? The original 180 is your principal. Correct. All right. So what happens here? So what is the total interest that he earned in these 6 years is the question. But 180 at 4%. Once again, let me just again confirm. 1.04, right? Raised to 6. So yes, around 1.24, 1.25%, 1.25 is correct, right? And you multiply that by 180, right? You will come to roughly about 225, right? Now, out of that 225, which becomes your amount, correct? The original principal needs to get subtracted to get your interest component, right? So the interest will be 225 minus 180, which is 45, right? 45, and then that 180 is only 225. Hmm. So in which case then, right, your total interest should also be somewhere around 2.5. Okay, let's do one thing, right? Let's not waste too much of time on this. Okay. Let's move on to the next question, right? In the mean, you guys move on to the next question. In the meantime, I'll try and see if I can figure this question out. Okay. So read this question. And if there's something which is missing, then it should say two, I'll just read out the question to you, right? Two trains, 140 meters and 80 meters long, are running in the same direction. The first one at 60 kilometers per hour and the second one at 50 kilometers per hour speed. Okay, in what time will they completely clear off each other from the moment they meet, right? So the length of one train is 140 meters. The length of the other train is 80 meters. Okay, this is running at 60 kilometers per hour. This is running at 50 kilometers per hour. Correct? And they're going in the same direction. All right. The question is asking what time will they completely clear off each other from the moment they meet. Okay. So just try your hand at this question. In the meantime, I'll see if I can look at that earlier example once again. Okay. Okay. All right. I think I understood where we went wrong. So in the previous question, correct, he gets an interest of 180 from the first transaction, right? But then the question says that with the amount that he received, he gives a loan to Bhakti, right? That means the loan to Bhakti is not just the interest that he received, it is the total amount that he had got, right? Which means the original 1,000 as well, right? So the principal should not be 180, it should be 1,180. Okay, and if it is 1,180, right, then what happens here? Okay, let's see what happens here. You get around 1.24 into 1180, which is 1463. Sorry, so this should be roughly 1463. Okay, which is the total amount, from which if I remove 1180, right, then the interest component here is 283, right? So he received 180 rupees as the interest from the first transaction and 283 as the interest from the second transaction, which means he gets a total of 463. But obviously the value is slightly more than 463, correct? Simply because they ignored quite a few terms, right? Are we now clear about this? Okay, so then the answer still remains 493, right? So the answer does not change. Correct. But we had actually made some error over here, right? So that is now being rectified. Okay. I hope that is clear to you. Okay. All right. Now let's come back to this question. Right. So now, since the trains are moving in the same direction, right, their relative speed, correct, will be the difference between the two speeds, which is 10 kilometers per hour, right? And they have to collectively cover a total distance of 140 plus 80, that is 220 meters. Correct? However, right, because this is given in meters and the speed is in kilometers per hour, right? One of the two things will have to get converted before we can apply any formula over here, right? Okay. So what we can do is, considering that 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer, correct? 220 meters, right, is basically 0.22 kilometers. Do you get that? It is 0.22 kilometers. Okay, right? And hence the time taken, time is basically distance upon speed, right? Will be 0.22 divided by 10, right? But this will give us the time in hours. right? Because we have considered the distance in kilometers and the speed in kilometers per hour. So the time will be in hours, whereas all the options are in seconds, right? So what we'll have to do, we'll have to multiply this by 3600 because there are 3600 seconds in an hour, right? Each hour consists of 60 minutes, in turn, which consists of 60 seconds, correct? So this basically is 0.22 into 360, right? Whatever that value is. Okay. What you could have also done, of course, it comes out to be 79.2 seconds, right? What you could have also done, of course, is converted the speed into meters per second, right? By how do you convert speeds from from kilometers per hour to meters per second? You multiply by 5 by 80, right? So speed of 10 kilometers per hour. What you could have also done is you could have multiplied this by 5 by 80. Correct? So you would have got 25 by 9 meters per second. Correct? As the speed. Correct? And now the distance to 20 meters will remain in meters. So that you need not change. So now you can directly take the time as 220 meters divided by 25 by 9 seconds. Correct? So this becomes basically 220 into 9 by 25. And then you can calculate this. It will come out to again obviously be the same answer, 79.2. Okay. So whichever way you want to do it, you can either convert the distance into kilometers, right? Or the speed in meters per second. Okay. Okay, try this question now. I'll read out the question again. The difference between the ages of Amit and his father is 30 years. The difference between the ages of Amit's sister Naina and her mother is 26 years. While Amit is 2 years younger than Naina, and the average age of the entire family is 16 years, you're asked to find Naina's age. Right? Write out. Any answers for this, guys? Since you are asked to find Naina's age, right? Let's focus on that. Right? So let's say Naina's age is X. What we are told is that Amit is 2 years younger than Naina, right? So Amit will be X minus 2. The difference between the ages of Amit and his father is 30 years. Obviously, when you say difference, right, the father obviously has to be older, right? So he'll be older by 30 years. So the father's age, right, is Amit's age, X minus 2 plus 30, that is X plus 28. Correct? And you're told that the difference between the ages of Amit's sister Naina and her mother is 26 years. So Naina is X. So the mother, right, will be X plus 26. Correct? So now, if I add up all their ages, the total age will be X for Naina, X minus 2 for Amit, X plus 28 for the father, and X plus 26 for the mother. Right? So how much does this come out to be? It comes out to be 4X plus 52. Am I right? Okay, 4x plus 52. And now because I'm told that the average age of the family is 16 years, now there are four members. Naina, Amit, the father and the mother, right? So if their average is 16, can I say that the total age of all the four put together will be 16 into 4, 64? Correct? So I can equate this to 64, which will mean that 4x will be 64 minus 52. Right, which is 12, and its x, that is Naina's age, is 3 years. Right, so Naina is 3 years old. See, the average age is not 18, average age is given as 16. Okay. All right. Try this question. This question, I think you should be able to read the entire question, right? So I am not going to spell it out. Try it and tell me what you get. Yeah, this is simple, isn't it? Right? You're told that the sum of the square of a natural number and twice the number is 255, right? So if the natural number is n, right, the sum of n square plus twice the number is 255, correct? Now what you can do here is you can write this as a quadratic equation and solve. Okay, you'll get two values of n. One will be positive, one will probably be negative, correct? So obviously it is the positive number because you have a natural number. Alternatively, what you can also do is from this expression, if I take out n common, I'll be left with n plus 2 is 255, isn't it? Correct? And now, so basically what we are getting is that the product of these two numbers is 255, correct? And the two numbers n and n plus 2 differ by 2. The only way in that which is possible is 15 into 17, because 15 into 17 is 255, right? So I can equate n to 15, then n plus 2 will be 17, correct? So my natural number is 15, okay? So it's a very simple question. Well, yeah, Atif, but it could also be none of the above, right? But yes, I mean, if I have to choose, I mean, if I'm, hard pressed for time, if there is not too much of time and I cannot even do this, or for some reason, if it does not strike that 255 is 15 into 17, right? Then yes, Atif, what you're saying is correct, that all the remaining numbers are not possible because their squares are more than 255, right? So 17, 16, as well as 25 all have squares that are more than 255. So they're anyways not going to be possible, right? So you can eliminate all of those options right away, right? So it's either 15 or none of the above. So I would have marked 15 either ways. Okay. So you're right. Okay, let's move on to the next question. A certain two-digit number is two times the sum of its digits, right? If 63 is added to the number, the digits get reversed. Which is that number? What is the quickest way of solving this question? Anyone? Just use the options. Just use the options because you have options with you, correct? Think about it. The first sentence simply says a certain two-digit number is two times the sum of its digits, right? So first of all, if that number is two times of something, it has to be an even number, right? So clearly 81 and 21 are out, correct? And then 18 is two times of 1 plus 8, isn't it? Two times of the sum of its digits. So 18 fits, but 12 is not two times the sum of its digits. So 12 does not fit. So 12 is also out. The only option is 18. You don't even have to bother about the rest of the question at all. Okay. All right. Cool. Next. Sorry. Yeah. I will again read out this question to you. In a box, there are some 25 paise, 50 paise, and 1 rupee coins. The ratio of the number of 25 paise coins, 50 paise coins, and 1 rupee coins is 30 is to 9 is to 4. And the total amount of the box is 96 rupees. You're asked to find the number of 50 paise coins. Okay. So tell me, how do you find? Okay, I'm not sure whether the options are properly, I think they're not aligned properly. The first option is 216. The second option is 48. The third option is 36 and the fourth option is 54, right? Now, again, you can solve this question using variables and equation left. For example, you can say that, okay, let's say the 25 paise coins are 30x, 50 paise coin will be 9x, 1 rupee coin will be 4x. So the value of the 25, sorry, 30x. Okay, the value of these 25 paise coins will be 30x by 25 and all of that or whatever. Sorry, 30x by 1/4, no? So 20, 38 by 4, 9x by 2 and 4x, and then add up and all of that, correct? But you don't really have to do this, right? What you simply have to, figure out here is if I take, because the coins are given in the ratio of 30 to 9 is to 4. If I take one set of 30 25 paise coins, 9 50 paise coins, and 4 1 rupee coins, let's see how much do we get. The 30 25 paise coins will give us 30 by 4, that is 7.5 rupees, correct? Because 25 paise is basically 1/4 of a rupee, right? The 950 paise coins will give us 9 by 2, 4.5 rupees, because 50 paise is half a rupee. And the 4 1 rupee coins will give you, of course, 4 rupees, right? So the total, right, value of this one set is 7.5 plus 4.5 plus 4, which comes out to be 16 rupees. So one set is worth 16 rupees. And since I have 96 rupees, right, obviously I have to have 6 sets. Correct? And each set contains 950 paise coins. So 6 sets will contain 54 50 paise coins. Right? So that is your answer. Okay. I hope this is clear. All right, let's move on to the next question. Here you're told that the difference between two numbers is 14 and the difference between their squares is 756, right? So if two numbers are x and y, you're told that x minus y is 14 and the difference between their square, that is x square minus y square, is 756. The question is asking you what is that sum? So x plus y is how much? Yeah, this is a very simple question, isn't it? Right? Because we know that x squared minus y squared is basically x minus y into x plus 1. Correct? I know x square minus y square is 756. So 756 and x minus y is 14. It will be 14 times x plus y. Right? So x plus y, which is what you're actually asked, is nothing but 756 divided by 14, which works out to be 54. Right? So the answer for this question is also in fact 54. Right? Correct? Okay, next. I'll again read out this question. In an obtuse angled triangle, the difference between the obtuse angle and one of the acute angles is 20 degrees, while the difference between the two acute angles is 56 degrees. Right? Find the measure of the smallest angle of the triangle. Okay, and again the options are a little mismatched. Okay, the first option is 16 degrees. The second option is 56 degrees. The third option is 46 degrees. The fourth is 48 degrees, and the fifth option is 52 degrees. Okay. Any answers for this one? Okay, this is your obtuse angle triangle, right? A rough diagram. You are told that the difference between the obtuse angle and one of the acute angles is 20 degrees, right? Clearly, the obtuse angle has to be more than the acute angle, has to be bigger, isn't it, right? So if that acute angle is, let's say, x, right, then the obtuse angle will be x plus 20, correct? You are also told that the difference between the two acute angles themselves is 56, right? Now, if x is the smaller of the two acute angles, then the other acute angle will become x plus 56. But that's not possible, isn't it? That's not possible because the obtuse angle itself is only x plus 20 and acute angle cannot be more than that, right? Which means that the third angle will have to be x minus 56. Do you get that? Right? And of course, all the three of them should add up to 180 degrees, correct? So x plus x minus 56, the two acute angles, plus x plus 20, which is the obtuse angle, should give you 180, which means you basically get 3x minus 36 is 180, right? So 3x will be 180 plus 36, 216, correct? Which will mean x will be 216 upon x, 3, that is 72 degrees, correct? But this is not your answer, right? Because what you asked is the smallest angle. The smallest angle is x minus 56. So that will be 72 minus 56, which is 16 degrees. That is the first option. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's move on. So our next question, I'll read out the question again. A ladder leans against a vertical wall. The top of the ladder is 8 meters above the ground, right? So let's say this is the vertical wall, right? There's a ladder. This is your ladder. Okay. The top of the ladder at this point is 8 meters above the ground. When the bottom of the ladder is moved further 2 meters away from the wall, right? So if the bottom is moved here, clearly it will come down, see, like this, right? This distance is 2 meters. Okay. The top of the ladder rests against the foot of, oh, okay. sorry, the top of the ladder rests against the foot of the wall. Okay. So then hold on a second. Now, so which would then mean that when it is moved 2 meters, when it's moved 2 meters away, then the top of the ladder rests against the foot. So then the ladder becomes this much. So this is the length of the ladder. Okay. Which is what is the length of the ladder is the question. Correct. Now again here what you can do, use the options, the simplest way. Okay. So if the length of the ladder is 10, okay, right, it would mean that this whole thing is also 10, right? So this will have to be 8. Are you with me? Correct. But that is not possible, right? Because 8 and 8, because if you apply Pythagoras, then you will get 8 square plus 8 square is 10 square, which is obviously not possible, right? So it cannot be 10. Correct. Then let's see what happens. 15, if that's the length of the ladder, then this will become 13. 8, 13, 15. No. This is 20, this is 18. Yeah. So, sorry. Are you getting this? Correct. So it cannot be 10, right? So that goes out. Okay. Similarly, if you take 15 meters, the second option, right? Then the entire length is 15. This is anyways 2. So this will become 13, right? And this becomes 15. But even that will not match, right? That still does not give you a proper right angle triangle, right? So 15 is also not possible. Okay. Similarly, you'll find that 20 is also not possible, right? But if you take the last option, 17, okay, if you take the last option 17, if the length of the ladder is 17 initially, right, then this whole thing is 17, which means this part will be 15. And if you remember, 8, 15, 17 is a Pythagorean triplet, right? Okay, so 8, 15, 17 can be the sides of a right angle triangle, right? Which means that the length of the ladder is 17 meters. Okay, now again here, you can solve it in a variety of different ways. You can consider the length of the ladder as x. Then this part becomes x minus 2, right? So then 8 square plus x minus 2 the whole square should be equal to x square. You solve that and you will again get x as 17, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is that you don't need to solve. Okay, 17 is your answer. Then this part becomes x minus 2, right? So then 8 square plus x minus 2 the whole square to be equal to x. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Find the number of revolutions made by a wheel to cover a distance of 198 meters if its diameter is 30 centimeters, right? So the diameter is given as 30 centimeters, right? It has to cover a total distance of 198 meters. How many revolutions will it have to make? Is the question, right? Now, in each revolution, a wheel covers a distance equal to its circumference, right? In one revolution, the distance that is covered is the circumference, right? Now, since the diameter is 30, right, the circumference, which is pi into diameter, will be 30 pi. Is that clear? Right? And if you take pi as 22 by 7, right? Pi, it's an approximate value, of course, but you can still take that for calculation purposes. Right? So this will become 30 into 22 by 7. This is the circumference, right? So in one revolution, the distance that is covered is 30 into 22 by 7, but this is in centimeters. Remember, it's in centimeters. Okay. Now, because the diameter is given in centimeters, right? So it is these many centimeters as the circumference, correct? So if you want to cover 198 meters, now 198 meters, because a meter has 100 centimeters, will be 19,800 centimeters. Correct. Okay. So to cover a distance of 30 into 22 by 7, you require one revolution. So to cover 19,800 centimeters, how many revolutions would you need? You simply cross multiply and you will get your answer. Okay. So that will simply be 19,800 into 1 divided by 30 into 22 by 7, which means you will get 7 at the top and 30 into 22 at the bottom, right? So you solve this and you get your answer. Okay, this cancels out, right? And 3 into 66, right? And then 22 into 3. So you get 21 revolutions. So you will need, sorry, 210. There's one more zero here, isn't it? Right? So 210 revolutions. Is that okay? Okay, I hope everyone has got this. Okay, let's move on. The perimeter of a square is equal to the perimeter of an equilateral triangle. Find the ratio of their areas. Right? Now, the perimeter of a square, perimeter is basically the sum of all the sides. So, perimeter of the square is 4 times its side, and the perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 3 times its side. Right? Since they are equal, right, what you can do, right, is assume, right, let's say the side of the square is 4, or actually let's consider 3. That will be easier. Okay, let's say the side of the square is 3, right, and you will understand why I've taken 3. So the perimeter is 4 times of 3, which is 12. Now this is also the perimeter of the triangle. Correct? So the perimeter of the triangle, right, is also 12, which means the side will be 4 because there are 3 sides, right? Okay. So the side of the square is 3. The side of the equilateral triangle is 4. You are asked to find the ratio of the area, right? The area of a square is, of course, the square of its sides. So the area of the square will be 9, whereas for an equilateral triangle, the area works out to be, does anyone remember this? Root 3 by 4 into side square, right? That is 16. So it will be 4 root 3. Okay, so the ratio is 9 is to 4 root 3. Side of the square, 1 second. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it is 9 is to 4 root 3, but given that 9 is 3 into 3, right? So I can simplify this further. So I will get 3 into 3 is to 4 root 3, right? And then one of the 3's and root 3 will cancel out, leaving you with it 3 root 3 is to 4, right? This is the final ratio, which is the fourth option. Okay, so not too much of calculation. That's the point over here, right? So if you take the side of the square as 3, then the perimeter will be 12. That is the perimeter of the triangle also. So the side of the triangle works out to be 4. So the area of the square will be 9, 3 square, whereas the area of the triangle will be root 3 by 4 into 4 square, which is 4 root 3. Correct? And that ratio of 9 is to 4 root 3 is the same as 3 root 3 is to 4, okay, which is the fourth option. Okay. If this 9 is to 4 root 3 was directly an option, then it would have been a very simple question. This is just one step more complex, slightly more complex. Okay. But it is still a very much doable question. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Okay. Again, I'm sure a large part of this is not clear, so I will, is hidden. So I will read out. According to a survey, all the persons read either TOI, Hindu, or HT. Right. So there are only 3 newspapers, right? TOI, Hindu, and HT. 80 people read TOI, 45 read Hindu, and all of that. So basically, this is a set theory based question clearly, right? So you can use Venn diagrams to solve. Right. So if this is your TOI ka circle, right? It is 80 people who read TOI, right? Then 45 read Hindu, some of whom may read TOI also, so there might be an overlap, right? And 4 people read only HT, right? Who are the people who read only HT? This, right? So that's what it says. 80 people read TOI, 45 read Hindu, and 4 people read only HT. Now, in total, 10 people read both HT as well as Hindu. Okay, that means the overlap between HT and Hindu is 10, but it will also include people who may have read TOI. So if that is X, those are the people who read all the three. Correct? Then the people who read only HT and Hindu would be 10 minus X. Correct? And 6 people read Hindu as well as TOI. Right? So this will then have to be 6 minus X. Correct? Also, 20 people read at least 2 newspapers. Right? Now, what you are told is that there is no person who reads any newspaper, okay? Who does not read any newspaper, right? So that is out. Which means all of these 3 circles add up to the entire universe, correct? And 20 people read at least 2 newspapers. Okay, let me see what else can we get. Find the population, okay? This is 10, this is 6. This we don't know. 20 people read at least 2 newspapers. Okay, so who are the people? Okay, let's call this A, right? So can I then say that A plus X plus 6 minus X plus 10 minus X, they are the people who read at least 2 newspapers. This should add up to 20. Okay, so we get basically A minus X is 4. Okay, so A is basically X plus 4. Okay, so instead of A, I can now replace that by X plus 4. Okay. Right. And now, if you look at TOI, the entire value is 80, right? Out of that, this part is 6, right? X plus 6 minus X, 6. And this part is X plus 4. Okay. So can I say that people who read only TOI, right, will be 80 minus X plus 10. That is X plus 4 plus 6. X plus 10, right? Which comes out to be 70 minus X. Okay. So these people are 70 minus X. Okay. What about only Hindu, right? Now, can we figure that out? We can, no? Because, so only Hindu, right? Let's see what we get. Okay, will be 45, which is the total Hindu population, minus, as in the population who reads Hindu, right? 45 minus what we have is this shaded portion is 6, and the rest of it is 10 minus X. So 10 minus X plus 6. Okay, so you get 45 minus 16, which is 29 plus X. So this is 29 plus X, and this is 4. So now I think we can add up all of it, and we will get all the X's and minus X's will basically cancel off. Okay, and then you will get the total population. So you have 80 who read TOI plus 29 plus X plus 10 minus X. Everything else is covered under 80, right? Plus 4, correct? So plus X and minus X will cancel off, and you will get 80 plus 29, that is 109. 109 plus 10, 119, 119 plus 4, 123, right? So the total number of people are 123. Slightly longish kind of a question, right? You can solve it, but I don't know, it might take a long time, honestly, right? And I know I'm not sure whether this is really worth your time. Okay, so out of all the questions that we solved today, I think this is probably one of the longest ones. Some of the questions, of course, as you could see, right? One of the earlier questions could be solved in 15 seconds, 20 seconds, right? So if you're able to save some time in those questions, then you can invest that additional time in this particular question, right? Because it's a solvable question. It's not that it is not solvable. It's just that it will take more time, right? So if you are able to, save time in other questions, you can use the extra time in this question, right? Otherwise, you can just skip this question, mark an answer and move on, right? But the answer here is 123. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next question. In a chess tournament where each player played against every other player only once, right? So it's like a round robin. It's called a round robin tournament, right? It was found that in 105 games, both the players were girls, whereas in 171 games, both the players were boys. What is the total number of, what is the number of games in which a boy played against a girl? Hmm. Okay. So we are told that each player played against every other player once, right? Now, in the 105 games that were played between two girls, correct? Okay, 105 games, both the players were girls. So can I say that the total number of girls will have to be 105 into 2, correct? So if there are 210 girls, you understand that? If there are 210 girls, correct? Then you can split those into 105 sets of girls where each player played against every other player only once, right? So obviously all the girls played against every other player. No, hold on. Hold on. No, it's not correct. Okay. Think about it this way, okay? I'm sure you guys have gone through or are familiar with permutations and combinations, isn't it, right? So remember, if there are n players playing against each other every other player once, then the total number of games is NC2. Okay, so for the girls, this NC2 is given as 105, right? NC2 is basically n into n minus 1 upon 2, isn't it? Correct? So this is 105. So n into n minus 1 is 210, right? Now 210, how can it be written as a product of two consecutive numbers? Because n and n minus 1 are two consecutive numbers, right? So if their product is 210, correct, then what can be the possibility? Hmm? 30 into, no, so 10 into 21, you can get 15. Yeah, 14 into 15, isn't it? Right? 14 into 15 is 210, correct? So your n is 15, correct? So basically what this means is there are 15 girls in the entire tournament, correct? Similarly, since boys played 171 games, right? So for boys, your NC2 will have to be equal to 171, right? That is n into n minus 1 by 2 should be 171, right? That is n into n minus 1 should be 171 into 2. 171 into 2 gives you 342. Am I right? Yeah, 342, correct? Now, can I express 342 as the product of two consecutive numbers? Hmm? I think 342 divided by, yeah, so it is 18 into 19, correct? Right? So 19 into 18, right? Which means your n is 19 here. So there are 19 boys. So the tournament consists of 15 girls and 19 boys. The question is, what is the number of games in which a boy played against a girl, right? So each of the 15 boys, right, will have to play against each of the 19 girls, right? So the total number of games will simply be 15 into 19. 15 into 19 works out to be 285. Correct? So it will be the total number of games are 285. All right. Okay, I think we have time left for one more question only. Okay, so let's look at this question then, which is again a set theory based question. Right? A survey was conducted amongst 120 kids about the liking for three actors, right? Shah Rukh, Amir, and Salman. It was found that 30 children did not like any of these actors. So in this case, unlike the earlier one, right, your universe is of 120, but all the values only add up to 90 because 30 kids did not like anyone. Okay. Now there were 40 children who liked Shah Rukh. So 40 kids who like Shah Rukh, 40 liked Amir also, right? And 50 liked Salman, right? So that's your distribution. Okay. The number of kids who liked all the three actors was 10. So this is 10, right? Find the number of kids who liked exactly two actors. That means this plus this plus this are the people who liked exactly two. Okay. Now, how do we basically do this? Hmm. Hmm. Okay, look at it this way, right? If let's say this is A, let's say this is B, let's say this is C, okay? And let's say the three dots that I've drawn here, which are basically the people who like exactly two actors, right? Add up to a total value D, right? So the three dots, dot plus dot, adds up to be D. Do you understand what I'm doing? Correct? Now, if I add up all of these values, I should get 90 because there are 90 kids who like somebody, right? Okay. But then if I just add up all these values, I'll be double counting them or triple counting them also at times. Do you understand that, right? So basically what will happen is your A plus B plus C, which are the people who like uh, only any one actor, right? Plus the three dots plus the 10 should give you 90. Okay. So your A plus B plus C plus D is 80. On the other hand, correct? If I take this A, B, and C and add all the three dots individually, correct? So what will then happen if I take, let's say, if I take this circle of 40, it consists of A, it consists of 10, and it consists of two of the dots. If I consider this circle of 40 also, it consists of B, it consists of 10, it consists of two of the dots. And if I consider the circle of 50, it consists of C, the two dots, and 10, right? So now when I add up, one second, I'll tell you what I'm doing. Okay. When I add up 40 plus 40 plus 50, right? I'm adding the A plus B plus C only once, right? Do you understand that? But each dot I'm adding twice. Each dot. So my total of the three dots I'll be adding twice. And the 10 number, the middle value, I'm adding three times because they appear in all the three circles. So they are getting counted three times, right? Which would then mean that A plus B plus C plus 2D, right, will be 40 plus 40, 80 plus 50, 130 minus 30, 100. Correct? So A plus B plus C plus 2D is 100, whereas A plus B plus C plus D is 80. And hence if I subtract the two, then I will get D as 20. And what is that D? That D is the total number of people, children who like exactly two actors, which is what we are asked. So the answer to this question is 20. Is that okay, everyone? All right. Unfortunately, we'll have to stop here because we have run out of time, right? I was hoping to solve a couple of more questions, but that's okay. Uh, right. I hope you understood, the approach that you need to take. So as I said, most questions, right? So question will be pretty much similar to this, right? In the actual test also, most questions should not take you more than 30 to 45 seconds to solve, correct? But at the same time, there will always be some questions which might take slightly higher time. It's okay, don't panic. Okay, right? If you don't have that time, then mark an option and move on, right? But if you have been able to save time in other questions, then use this time for some of the other questions that take more time. So none of these questions will be unsolvable. Okay, right? So you should be able to get this, right? Okay, somebody is asking me to repeat the last part. Okay, the last part is very simple, right? What I said, I hope you understood the two equations that were formed, right? I've just subtracted the two equations, right? So a plus b plus c plus d was 80 and a plus b plus c plus 2d was 100. So when I subtracted two, right, a and a, b and b, c and c will cancel out. 2d minus d will give you d and 100 minus 80 will give you 20. So that d is 20. And what is that d? That d is the summation of the three dots, right? Which are the three areas representing children who like exactly two actors, which is what the question is asking, right? So that works out to be 20. Okay, I hope you have got that. All right, so that's it. Thank you very much, and all the best to all of you. I'm sure you guys will rock it, right? And really do well. Okay, thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.